You know that feeling when you are, like, completely engrossed in a movie? Like, you are gripping the armrests, genuinely feeling all the grief.
Oh yeah, your heart is just racing.
Right. The grief, the joy, the terror of the characters on screen. And for those 2 hours, that simulated world is just absolute reality to you.
You completely forget you're even sitting in a theater.
Exactly. But then the credits roll, the house lights come up, and you look around at, the empty popcorn buckets with this sudden, totally disorienting realization that none of it was actually real.
It's a very specific kind of whiplash, for sure.
It really is, and that feeling, that waking up from an all-consuming illusion, that is exactly what the spiritual philosophy we are exploring today forces us to confront. So, welcome to your deep dive.
Glad to be here.
Today, we have gathered your sources to walk you through something incredibly profound. We're unpacking the sacred philosophy of Guru Amar Das Ji, specifically as it is presented in Rag Sorath. And really, our mission today is to dig into what this deeply revered text describes as the ultimate human struggle.
Right. The big one.
Yeah, that massive tension between living a completely self-centered life versus a God-centered life.
And to truly grasp the weight of this philosophy, we have to start by recognizing how Guru Amar Das Ji frames the reality you and I are experiencing right at this very moment.
Okay, lay it on us.
Well, this is not a worldview that sees human life as just some random biological accident, or even just a straightforward pass-fail test of morality. It frames our entire existence as this deliberately constructed, incredibly convincing play.
A play, like a theater production.
Exactly. It is an intricate illusion designed by the creator, and navigating the profound tension of that illusion is basically the core challenge of the human condition.
The sheer depth of this material, it hits you immediately. Guru Amar Das Ji really does not ease us into the shallow end of the pool here.
No, not at all.
The philosophy opens by dropping these massive, heavy concepts about preordained destiny and then, immediately grounds those cosmic ideas in the gritty, harsh realities of our daily emotional attachments.
So,
It just moves incredibly fast from the universal to the deeply personal.
it does, and I think it requires us to establish a clear compass before we wade any deeper into the sources.
That makes sense.
Guru Amar Das Ji presents two central archetypes that act as, essentially, the true north and true south of this entire spiritual landscape.
Right.
So on one end of the spectrum, we have the Monmukh.
The Monmik.
Yeah, this translates to the self-willed individual. It represents the person whose internal compass points entirely inward, toward their own ego, their fleeting desires, and their fierce, uncompromising attachments to the material world.
It's all about me, me, me.
Exactly. And the complete counterweight to the Monmukh is the Gurmukh.
Which is the God-centered individual.
Right. Instead of looking inward at their own ego, their compass points outward and upward. They live a life oriented around the divine, acting according to the Guru's will.
So the journey we are taking today is essentially an exploration of that vast, honestly agonizing gulf between the lived experience of the Manmukh and the profound peace of the Gumukh.
That's a perfect way to put it. But before we can even begin to analyze the destination of either of those paths, we have to examine the starting line.
The baseline condition.
Yes, because Guru Amar Das Ji paints a very specific, uncompromising picture of the baseline human condition. The philosophy introduces a concept called poorab likhiaa.
Poorab likhiaa,
Okay,
which translates to preordained destiny. It asserts that individuals act according to what is written from the very beginning by the Creator himself.
wow.
So the grand architecture of human life, the overarching script of the play we find ourselves in, is already penned.
Having the script already written feels so immense and, unchangeable. It's a lot to process.
It is a lot.
But then the philosophy pairs that vast cosmic architecture with something deeply intimate and psychological. Your sources highlight this concept of ttagaulee.
Yes, ttagaulee. And the literal translation provided is the drug of emotional attachment. I just find that so striking. It does not describe our earthly attachments as just bad habits or minor annoying distractions.
Right.
It categorizes them as a literal narcotic.
And we have to look closely at how a narcotic actually functions, right? A drug alters your perception of reality.
Yeah, it distorts things.
It numbs you to certain truths while artificially heightening others. So Guru Amar Das Ji describes this drug of emotional attachment as a paralyzing agent. It causes humans to completely forget the Creator, who is described in the text as the ultimate treasure of virtue.
Oh, wow.
And because of this constant administration of the drug, this daily obsession we all have with wealth, status, temporary relationships, Our own pride humans fall into a state called dhoojai.
The love of duality.
Yes, exactly, duality. It's the fundamental illusion that we are entirely separate from the divine and that the temporary material things of this world are the ultimate bedrock reality.
That is just so heavy.
It is. And the philosophy issues a very stark, arresting warning here. It cautions us not to look at a person who is completely consumed by this worldly attachment and think of them as being truly alive.
Wait, really?
Yeah. Through this love of duality, through their total submission to the drug, they are actually in a state of spiritual death.
Reading about this love of duality, I was thinking it feels exactly like being born with a high-tech virtual reality headset just strapped to your face.
Oh, that's a great way to think about it.
Right, like the headset, that is the drug of attachment, the ttagaulee. The moment you enter the world, it starts feeding you this incredibly vibrant, addictive, high-stakes simulation.
Yes.
It projects your career anxieties, your wealth, your social status, all your family drama. And it is so utterly convincing, so emotionally heavy that you just forget the real world entirely.
You don't even know you have a headset on.
Exactly. You are walking around blind to the actual room you are in, reacting only to the digital pixels. I mean, you are biologically breathing, but you are spiritually dead to the true reality of the creator.
Because you were reacting to the digital pixels, completely convinced they are the bedrock of existence.
Yeah.
And the real friction comes when we place this condition next to that first concept we talked about, preordained destiny. We are essentially compelled to ask a very difficult question about the nature of the creator's design here.
I was going to say, wait, I struggle with this exact tension. If our destiny is preordained by the creator, if the script of the play is already written, why are we spawned into the world with this VR headset already glued to our eyes?
The million-dollar question.
What is the purpose of starting humanity at such a massive, blinding disadvantage? I mean, why administer the drug right out of the gate?
Well, the philosophy does not shy away from this paradox at all. It actively leans into it. The illusion of duality, this potent drug of attachment, it is not a mistake. It's not a glitch in the cosmic system.
Okay.
It is the fundamental hurdle of human existence that sets the necessary stage for spiritual awakening. I mean, think about it. That if there were no illusion of separation, there could be no journey of realization.
Right. There's nothing to wake up from.
Exactly. If there were no forgetting, there could be no remembering. The drug of attachment provides the heavy gravity that the spirit must eventually learn to defy.
Heavy gravity. I like that. And that gravity really sets up the fork in the road, doesn't it? Because once we understand that everyone starts with this narcotic in their system, we can look at how humanity responds.
Which brings us right back to the two archetypes.
Yes. Guru Amar Dasji makes it painfully clear what happens when you just let the ego run unchecked under the influence of this drug. The fate of the manmukh, the self-willed person, is described with incredibly stark, haunting imagery in the text.
It really is.
They suffer horrible pain and deep regret. The philosophy notes their faces are blackened among men.
And we have to unpack the mechanism of that suffering. The blackened face is a powerful metaphor in this context for profound social shame and disgrace.
It's not subtle.
No. And notice that the punishment outlined here is not just some mystical threat of a fiery afterlife. It is an immediate, agonizing psychological reality. Guru Amar Dasji notes that no one places any reliance in the self-willed manmukhs. Trust in them is entirely lost.
That is such a devastating practical consequence. Trust is lost. I mean, when we think about how a highly self-centered person operates, they view every interaction as a transaction.
Always asking what they can get out of it.
Exactly. What can this person do for my ego? How does this relationship advance my material wealth? And you can only operate that way for so long before the community around you catches on.
People aren't blind to it forever.
Right. You slowly compromise your integrity, you use people to serve your own simulation, and eventually everyone figures it out. You burn every bridge until you are left in complete isolation.
It is the ultimate tragedy of the manmukh. They sacrifice their integrity and their spiritual life to accumulate the things of the world. The philosophy specifically points to the intense attachment to wives and sons, which really represents our deepest earthly bonds.
The things we hold on to the tightest.
Yes. Yet the stark reality presented is that none of these attachments will travel with them in the end.
Oh, wow.
The wealth, the status, the fiercely guarded family ties, they belong entirely to the temporary realm. When the simulation finally ends at death, the manmukh is left completely alone, holding nothing of eternal value.
It is a life spent frantically trying to build a massive, elaborate castle out of shifting sand. You know? You spend all your energy trying to protect the walls from the wind, hoarding more sand to make it taller, but the foundation is constantly, inevitably washing away.
That sounds exhausting.
It is an exhausting, terrifying way to live, and ultimately, it all collapses. But the counter to this, the other side of the coin, is the Gurmukh, the God-centered individual.
Yes.
For those who turn away from their own ego and meditate on the Lord, the philosophy states they live in absolute peace.
The contrast in the psychological experience is just profound. The Gurmukh achieves peace because they bypass the shifting sand entirely.
Right, they don't even build there.
Exactly. They dig all the way down and build their internal foundation on the bedrock of the true name, the eternal reality of the Creator. And because of this, the Gurmukh experiences a radical redefinition of human connection.
How so?
Well, while the Manmukh loses the trust of everyone through their selfishness, the Gurmukh finds true relatives and true friends.
Because they are no longer connecting over transactional, temporary gains.
Mercy.
They join together in love, acting night and day according to the true guru's will. Their relationships are anchored in something that actually outlasts the simulation.
It's a completely different way of existing with others.
But, just as the lines between these two paths seem perfectly drawn, like bad guy over here, good guy over there, Guru Amar Das Ji pulls us right back to that initial heavy paradox we talked about earlier.
The destiny aspect.
Yeah. Right after outlining the painful, selfish isolation of the Manmukh, the text notes, "O Nanak, they act according to their preordained destiny. No one can erase it."
It is a brilliant philosophical maneuver that completely strips away human judgment.
It really does.
You look at the destruction the Manmukh has caused, right? The broken trust, the frantic greed, the isolation. And your initial instinct might be anger.
Or superiority, like, I would never do that.
Exactly. But the philosophy reminds you that they are simply playing out the hand they were dealt by the Creator's pen.
You cannot look down on the Manmukh with hatred or spiritual arrogance. It forces you out of judgment and directly into a space of deep compassion. You realize they are trapped under the weight of the exact same drug we are all fighting.
Yes. And this realization requires us to shift our perspective even further. To truly understand why the Creator would author a system where such agonizing isolation is even possible, the text transitions to a broader structural element called the poorab.
A poorab. That's essentially a stanza, right?
Yeah.
But it translates to something closer to a step or a ladder.
That's right. The structure of the text itself acts as a ladder, elevating our thought process from the individual psychological struggle on the ground up to the macro cosmic architecture of the universe.
We're zooming way out.
Yes. And in this poorab, Guru Amar Das Ji reveals that the Creator created the world and arranged it specifically as a khel,
A khel.
a play, a cosmic drama.
This is where the philosophy gets incredibly provocative, if you ask me. It states that the Creator himself created the three qualities of Maya, which is the pervasive illusion of the material world, and actively fostered our emotional attachment to it.
Yes, he did.
I mean, he built the stage, wrote the script, designed the props, and intentionally made us fall in love with the props.
The Creator is the ultimate set designer. The three qualities of Maya represent the entire fabric of our material existence. Our passions, our lethargy, our goodness, everything that keeps the world turning.
Everything we interact with.
Right, and when individuals get lost in this play, when they succumb to hamai, which translates to egotism, they start believing the play is the ultimate reality.
You forget they're on a stage.
And because of this egotism, they are called to account for their deeds and find themselves trapped in the endless cycle of coming and going, or reincarnation.
I have to admit, when I first read this part of your sources, I found it incredibly difficult to reconcile.
It's a tough pill to swallow.
It really is. The Creator arranged the play, built the illusion of Maya, and actively fostered our attachment to it. If the house sets the rules, builds the maze, and actively pumps distraction into the room, isn't that just a deliberate, cruel trap?
A rigged game.
Exactly. How are we supposed to win a game that is essentially rigged against us from birth?
It is entirely natural to interpret it as a cruel setup, but that interpretation assumes that the ultimate goal of human existence is simply to be comfortable and unchallenged.
Okay, fair point.
If we reframe the purpose of life as the necessary evolution and awakening of the soul, then Maya is not a malicious trap. It is a highly calibrated spiritual training ground.
A training ground that requires resistance to work.
Think about the mechanics of physical growth. A muscle cannot grow stronger in a vacuum, right?
Right, it needs weights.
It requires heavy resistance. It needs gravity to push against. Maya, the illusion of the material world, the intense emotional attachments, the constant drama of our daily lives, that is the resistance.
Oh, wow.
The play requires the illusion to exist so that the soul actually has something to overcome. Homai, our egotism, is simply the binding mechanism.
Yeah.
Is the deeply held belief that I am doing this. I am accumulating this wealth. I am suffering this heartbreak.
So the goal isn't to somehow escape the theater or physically leave the world.
No, not at all.
It is about staying on the stage, delivering your lines, but finally realizing that you are an actor in a play. You stop confusing your character's temporary bankruptcy or social embarrassment with the actual death of your eternal soul.
Yes. You participate in the Kell, the play, but you are no longer bound by the ego that makes the drama so agonizing.
You step out of the illusion of control, which I think brings us to the ultimate resolution of the text. Because if we are in this beautifully designed, incredibly distracting play, driven by a destiny written before we were even born.
Right, the big how.
Exactly. How does anyone actually become a gurmukh? How do you take the VR headset off when the simulation is the only reality your senses have ever known?
The exit strategy provided here is deeply humbling. It does not rely on human willpower at all.
It doesn't.
No. The philosophy states, the guru instructs those whom the Lord himself blesses with grace.
Grace.
Yes. The transition from the agonizing burden of the manmukh to the unshakable peace of the gurmukh is not an achievement. It's not something you earn like a trophy. It is a gift. It relies entirely on divine grace.
Okay, so through this grace, what happens?
Through this grace, the individual receives the guru's instruction. And the mechanism of that instruction is what finally breaks the simulation. It causes the Nam, the divine reality, the eternal name of the Lord, to physically come and abide within the individual.
So the ultimate way to escape the endless cycle of accounting for our deeds, the way out of the exhausting trap of coming and going, isn't just trying really, really hard to be a good person.
Right.
We cannot simply muscle our way to enlightenment. It is about stepping entirely out of our own will and surrendering to the guru's instruction through grace.
The human ego desperately wants to be the hero of its own salvation.
Oh, absolutely. We love a good self-made hero story.
The ego wants to proudly declare, I meditated harder than everyone else. I studied the texts. I fought my way out of Maya. But the philosophy dismantles that entirely.
You can't out-ego the ego.
Exactly. You cannot use the ego to destroy the ego. The transition from manmukh to gurmukh requires an ego death. When the name indwells, it displaces the ego. The constant solitary anxiety of trying to control a sandcastle in a hurricane, as you put it earlier, simply dissolves.
Yeah, just washes away.
And what fills that empty space is the absolute peace of the gurmukh.
You know, when you truly internalize that you did not save yourself, that it was entirely the grace of the creator and the instruction of the guru that pulled you out of the simulation, the only logical human response left is overwhelming gratitude.
It's the only thing left.
That is exactly how Guru Amar Das Ji concludes this profound text. It ends with the ultimate expression of devotion and humility. I am a sacrifice to my guru. Forever and ever, I am a sacrifice to him.
It is the completely natural response of a soul that has finally tasted reality after a lifetime of chewing on illusions.
What a beautiful way to phrase it.
It is a posture of absolute surrender and absolute gratitude. The philosophy offers a sobering mirror to the way we live, but it also provides a deeply hopeful path forward. It reminds us that ultimate peace is never found in trying to control the script of the play.
Because you can't.
Right. It is found in recognizing the director and trusting the grace that flows from him.
We have covered an incredible amount of philosophical ground today.
We really have.
We started by looking at the paralyzing drug of emotional attachment we are all born into, and the tragic, isolated reality of the manmukh who lets their ego dictate their life. We zoomed out through the paré to see the entire universe as a divine play, a cosmic training ground filled with the heavy, necessary resistance of Maya.
The ultimate gym for the soul.
Exactly. And finally, we discovered that the path to peace is not fought with our own strength, but received through grace, allowing the name to replace our ego entirely.
It's a stunning journey.
Which brings us to a final thought for you as you step away from this deep dive. We have talked a lot about the cosmic play and the simulation, but let's bring it right down to the ground you are standing on.
The practical application.
Right. Think about your deepest earthly attachments right now. Your career, your bank account, your social standing, the things that feel so urgently, terrifyingly real to you today. This sacred philosophy describes an obsession with those things as a spiritual sleep, or even as being dead through duality.
It's a stark wake-up call.
So what does it mean for you to truly wake up tomorrow morning? How do you participate in the grand play of the world? How do you love your family deeply? How do you do your work with absolute excellence? How do you pay your bills without falling back under the spell of the drug?
How do you stay on the stage without forgetting it's a stage?
Exactly. How do you play your assigned part while keeping your heart anchored in the eternal reality of the true name? It is a heavy, lifelong question, but perhaps it is the most important one you can ask. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive into the profound spiritual philosophy of Guru Amar Das Ji.
It's been an honor.
We wish you immense peace, clarity, and grace on your own journey through the play.